Hey, what's going on, everybody? On this week's episode of What's Wrong with the World, we're going to be talking about plastic pollution. Avoiding the use of plastics is nearly impossible. For example, take a look at the chair you're sitting in. Plastic. Because it's impossible to avoid, we need to do our best to reduce, reuse, and recycle to avoid the growing problem of plastic pollution. In this podcast, we will be discussing things such as plastics and disposal, consequences, government action, and local community action. Hope you enjoy. Now here's Austin with the news about plastic and disposal.
Plastic and disposal of plastics. Some of the top plastic items that are found in the ocean are plastic bottles, caps and lids, straws, food wrappers and containers, plastic bags, and plastic cutlery. Even though plastics are found all throughout the ocean, there are certain areas called garbage patches where extremely large amounts of trash and plastic are accumulated. This is largely because of the ocean currents. Different ways that plastics get into our ocean are 1. Litter, 2. Drainage from households, and 3. One of the biggest sources is from landfills with trash and plastic being blown away. Once these plastics enter our ocean, they don't just disappear. For example, water bottles can take nearly 10 years to decompose. Also, a lot of the times, plastics in oceans will just break down into microplastics, which is just as worse even if we can't see them from the surface. One of the easiest ways to help reduce this problem is recycling. It is such a simple action, but people today are too ignorant to do such a thing. Some reasons people don't recycle include it's too inconvenient, people don't have enough space in their house to recycle, they don't pay people to recycle, recycling doesn't make a difference, and it's just too hard. If we don't act on this, there are going to be huge consequences.
Now we're going to send it on over to Javier to talk about the consequences.
The ocean is getting worse throughout the years. There are two main consequences that need to be explained. The first consequence of plastic pollution relates to marine animals. Marine animals are the ones who are affected the most from our daily plastic consumption. Because of the pollution, there are thousands of fish, seabirds, and other marine mammals that are killed each year after ingesting or getting entangled by it, showing that in the North Pacific, they ingest between 12,000 to 24,000 tons of plastic a year, which cause intestinal injuries and or death. Another type of animals that suffers a lot are the seabirds. They ingest such large amount of plastic which gets stuck in their stomachs to the point where they are forced to consume less food and die due to starvation. Ingesting and get tangled with plastic involves whales. Whales can become entangled into relic fishing gear, which can cause them to endure a slow and painful death. Finally, we have to say that this pollution is affecting ourselves as well. When we ingest food from marine animals, we ingest the microplastic that they have in their bodies. Moreover, we can even breathe in plastic microparticles suspended in the air, which then puts our lungs at high risk.
Here's Rosino talking about government action.
Several government regulations are in place to limit ocean plastic pollution. The Act to Prevent Pollution from Ships places regulations on ship waste disposal. It also requires the Environmental Protection Agency and the National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration to study the effects of plastic pollution and find measures to reduce or eliminate these effects. The Marine Debris Research, Prevention, and Reduction Act created programs in the National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration and the U.S. Coast Guard for identifying, finding the sources of, assessing, reducing, and preventing ocean debris. The Shore Protection Act regulates the transportation of municipal and commercial waste in coastlines. Finally, the Ocean Dumping Act prevents transporting material from the U.S. for dumping, prevents dumping of imported material by American agencies, and prevents dumping imported material in U.S. ocean territory. Many states also now charge fees for single-use plastic bags. Despite these regulations, only 6 states have enacted some form of plastic bag recycling, labeling, or reuse laws. According to the EPA, the United States consumes roughly 380 billion plastic bags each year and recycles less than 5% of them.
Last, we're going to send it on over to Aaron to talk about local community action.
4 to 12 metric tons of plastic enter the ocean every year. Protecting our marine wildlife starts at the community level. Storm drains are extremely important to allow rainwater to get back into the ocean. Unfortunately, their placement within urban settings created a new problem by allowing trash to flow into environmental habitats. The trash and plastics accumulate and can poison the water supply, or even be mistaken for food by marine animals. California has been doing great environmental work by passing laws that hold manufacturing companies more accountable and funding projects that discourage littering. Additionally, California's Storm Drain Initiative brought a spotlight to the issue by both creating art installations surrounding storm drains and adding drains to oceans markers in cities with over 100,000 people. We can also help prevent plastics from entering our water supply by using local purified water sources instead of using the water that is sent through water lines from miles away. Silicon Valley Advanced Water Purification Center began in 2014 and is the largest of its kind in Northern California. As of now, it can produce 8 million gallons of clean water a day.
Again, I'm Jake, and thanks for tuning in to this very depressing episode about plastic pollution. It's time to stop pointing fingers and take responsibility for our actions. Tune in to next week as we will be talking about Shamu. Thanks, guys.